Hello, John Vandervelden here with my 10th virtual authors event. It's been a while since I've had one of these things for you, offered one of these things for you, and it's partly because I didn't know what I was going to talk about. But today I thought I would talk about what made me a writer. And it wasn't that I liked English class or language arts class so much in high school, because I didn't. Mainly because I didn't understand the mechanics as well as I understood math and science, which seemed so much more logical to me. And it would seem odd that a man that was a farmer for over 40 years would write a book, 2 books published. I'm working on the third. But the fact is that I've been a storyteller my whole life. And when I was in junior high already, I'm sure, I was a very big fan of science fiction, particularly Andre Norton. And so I would write some little stories that were like what we call fan fiction today, which is, it's financially useless because you can't sell much of that because it treads on copyrights. But it didn't matter. I was a kid, so I wrote some of this stuff. It's my own science fiction. I don't read much science fiction anymore, but that's all right. At the time, I was really into it. But in 2000, I started writing more seriously when I realized that even though I didn't understand the mechanisms, I didn't understand all the tools and the ways sentences worked, that I could hire someone that could repair that to help me fix those things. And when I did that, I was the fear of writing kind of evaporated. And so anyway, I began in 2000. I was still milking cows at the time and working about 80 hours a week average. I began writing my first novel-length piece. I'd written a few short stories. My first novel-length piece, 411 Apple Street. And I had heard on some self-help, whatever, on the Today Show that, if you want to write a book, all you have to do is write 1 page a day. And at the end of the year, you've written 365 pages. So I took that to heart. Not that I could write a page a day. Because at that time, I was writing, my manuscripts are single-spaced. So there's about 500 words on a page. Average page, about 500 words, maybe a little more, a little less, but average. So I would put a date when I began today. I would say, it would be, if I was just right today, I would say October 28th, 2020. I would put that in parentheses where I started today and would write underneath that, and then I would know how far I got, the paragraph or whatever, because it would not be often that I would have a 500-word day that I would write, and I could keep track. You go flipping back through the pages and you say, oh, yeah, I wrote this in February, or I wrote that in March, But I wrote that story that way, and that was the first novel-like piece I wrote. And it was like my favorite kind of writing, where I have an idea that it springs from, and then I let it run and let it take me where it goes. It's kind of like I'll describe it. I'm watching a movie and I'm being taken along, and I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue where it's going to go, or how it's going to end, or who's going to win. Of course, my mind sets parameters ahead of time. I know the main character isn't going to vanish somewhere 100 pages from the end. No, the main character's got to carry us through the whole story. And I knew in that story, but the story was running away, and I had so many different threads going in that story, and so many different characters moving in different directions. And I came to the point after I was a couple hundred pages in, and I said, well, we've got to come to a conclusion here. We've got to reach an ending. Well, so, and I had an idea who the protagonist was, who was the main character, and who the antagonist was, who was very nearly a villain, and that they would have to confront one another, and they do. But to push it, I kind of felt like I was pushing it along to take it to that place, and it seemed to me, after all the time of building this and building that, that the story almost imploded at the end. But that was my first story. And those that have read it didn't seem to think it imploded. They were quite satisfied with the story in general. It has not been in print, likely won't go to print. There are people that would like to see it in print, but I don't know if I've got time to do that. But as I've told you before, I like to do stories like that. I like to have a story where I start with a seed, and this particular writer, doesn't normally do outlines ahead or plot charts or any of that. My brain is supposed to be handling all this. In general, I think it does, but perhaps other tools would make things better, but it is what it is. And since I'm the one doing it, I should choose the tools that I enjoy to use. I enjoy using, which I do. But in any case, Misty Creek, and I've told you, like I was saying a moment ago, the first draft of that was also the first draft of Elizabeth's Journey. The two stories are connected. And I started with the seed of the story, one particular character facing one particular event and her reaction to it, and where this takes her. And those that have read the story understand that Elizabeth has had some emotional difficulties. And she has to pick up herself and move forward from there. And the place and the way she does is she goes to Kansas, to Misty Creek. That was the only thing I knew about the story when I started, except I had to minimize the sadness in it because my beloved Jackie, my beloved, was telling me that my stories had too much sadness. And so I had to have a happy ending. So I knew that she came from a difficult situation, a traumatic, emotional experience, a very painful event, and I had to lead her through the pages and end up with her coming to a better, a happier conclusion. And that was all I had to work with, and I just built a story in between here, and not even sure exactly how it was going to end, but yeah. But now I have Misty Creek and Elizabeth's Journey in print, and it's available. Please buy one. At least go to the library and read one. Please. But I'm working on the third book in the series, and I didn't intend to write a series. Jackie says, you don't have to, but those that have read both books are asking me to. And so I'm writing the third book, which is tentatively titled House on the Lake's Shore. And I was concerned in writing it because it was to pick up where Elizabeth's journey ended, and it was to take the story to a place I knew where I wanted it to break. I wanted this book to end. So House on the Lake's Shore is the first story I've written, any story I've written, where I had a very definite beginning and understood a very definite conclusion. And it was for me to figure a way to knit those two together in a way that would take the reader along. Elizabeth's journey had a hook at the end that was an important facet that runs through the thread of House on the Lake's Shore. And I played with that as well. It's a fun ride. I'm quite pleased with the draft. I'm in the revision stage. I will be sending the revised first draft to Christina, my editor, in a month or so, God willing. And then she will send me her letter telling me how pleased it was for her to read it, but you need to change this, and in her editorial letter. And it's a delight. It's a delight working with Christina. You need someone like that is completely on the outside, that reads it with a total different set of eyes, And so, so I'll be excited to get my editorial letter, multi-pages, to tell me the strengths and weaknesses of the story. And that's important. And it's part of writing. And I appreciate it. I do. But I think we've run our time. Oh my goodness, we've crossed 12 minutes, haven't we? Anyway, have a great day. I hope the fall has been good for you. I hope that you and your family are well. And you're not sitting in the backyard shivering like I am right now, because the wind's a little cool today. Anyway, may God bless. Until we meet again, take care.